One of my Patreon rewards is the ability to request games for review, and this month I was asked to play through Homefront. So, Homefront is a first-person shooter made by Chaos Studios back in 2011, and boy, does that ever show. First up, we have the the really stupid story. North Korean dictator Kim Jong-un manages to reunite with the South. A war between Iran and the Saudis tanks the world's oil supply. Korea pwned Japan, and through a bunch of other contrived bullshit, this Korean alliance takes over the United States. This is the backdrop to the story you will experience in the game, and that begins with the fact that you are a pilot that gets picked up by an American resistance movement in order to help them recover fuel to deliver to the US military so they can stage a counterattack. Apparently, the original plan for this was to make the Chinese take over the world, but the studio backed off of that because they were scared of making the Chinese Ministry of Culture mad, as well as a former CIA field agent and consultant on the game, telling them that China and America's economic interdependence would nip this in the bud long before it ever happened. So, let me get this one straight. It's unrealistic for China to take over the US because economy, but a string of incredibly contrived occurrences, which I should mention includes bird flu and EMPs, allows North Korea, a place that mostly lacks running water and electricity, to take over instead. Okay, sure, why not? I was really scratching my head over the batshittery on display here until a Twitter friend let me know who that ex-CIA guy really was. John Milius. Milius? We're gonna go with Milius. Ever seen the movie Red Dawn? That ridiculous movie where the Soviet Union takes over the USA? Yeah, that was made by the same guy. Shit makes so much more sense now. What really gets me about this isn't that it is totally ludicrous, it's the fact that it takes itself 1000% serious at all times. I can get behind nonsense when it's at least somewhat self-aware, but when it's trying to be Saving Private Ryan, my brain cannot take it. All I can really do is laugh my ass off. It gets even worse when you have characters getting massively upset by seeing mass graves made up of American citizens, but then those same characters turn around 5 minutes later and are totally cool with committing war crimes against the Korean soldiers. They're committing genocide against us? Let's light them on fire with white phosphorus. Ha 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 ha, this is great! For me, there's a balance that really needs to be struck. Post-Spec Ops, many games are going for conflicted characters, but really overdo it to the point of silliness. But these over-the-top rah-rah jingoistic games like Homefront are often just as stupid. Call of Duty Modern Warfare was massively influential in 2007 and basically changed the entire FPS landscape for years, something we're just seeing a reversal of now, 10 years later. Cartoonier games like Unreal Tournament were being eschewed in favor of these new, more realistic shooters, and Homefront perfectly embodies this trend. The look of this game is what can only be described as vomit and baby poop. I long suspected that these realistic games without inspired visual design were going to age a lot poorer than others, and I was right. Homefront is only 6 years old and it looks totally awful. There's a hidden bit of pain within how the game looks that may be overlooked by some as well. The field of view setting is very limited, and if you're like me and suffer from occasional simulation sickness, prepare to vomit. The combination of the terrible field of view, bad color scheme, and whiplash movements sent me straight to the toilet. Homefront's gameplay feels ripped straight off of Call of Duty, but seems to have even less variety than that. It did remember to use those drone strike sections that everyone raved about in Modern Warfare, though. A lot of this game gave me terrible flashbacks to Uncharted. Both games lead you into rooms full of chest-high walls and lock you down with shooting battles for as long as possible in order to pad out the game's length. Homefront abused this a hell of a lot more than Uncharted did though. Despite these sections popping up every 2 minutes, the game still only took me like 4 hours to complete. If I played through this a second time, I bet I could do it in under 3. Homefront also manages to fuck up a number of other things FPS games really shouldn't. One of the most annoying mistakes is that it doesn't differentiate between enemies and allies very well. Everyone in the game is dressed in similar clothing, so it's really easy to mix everyone up, and they didn't put any useful indicators to help with this. Instead of something useful like, names or arrows or something, they just make your aiming reticle vaguely turn green when you mouse over allies. That's totally useful and not something that I missed at every turn or anything. Totally. The suck continues with the cocked up checkpoints in this game, which were honestly about as bad as the ones in Aliens Colonial Marines. Just like that travesty, Homefront places checkpoints way too far apart and in terrible places. Why on earth would you put these in front of a long, unskippable story section when you know people are going to die afterward? That shit is infuriating. Closely related to these annoying sequences is the NPC AI. Not only do you constantly have to sit and wait for them to catch up to you and open pathways for you, they also get in the way at every possible moment. Do developers not realize how annoying this is? I don't want AI that gets in my way and kills me constantly. Fucking stop, please. Now normally I'd like to talk about the multiplayer here, but alas, it is impossible. After THQ went bankrupt, the multiplayer for this game was shut down. However, considering this game's lack of compelling, anything, and the fact that this kind of game is falling out of favor, I doubt anyone would still be playing it anyway. Looking back at the reviews for this game, they are a little bit shocking to me. 7s and 8s for this? Sure, a 7 basically means dog shit on NGN, but what about the others? Were these critics all just desperate for more Cowadoots action, or what? This is all completely subjective, but in my opinion, the only publication that hit the mark here was GameSpy. Homefront is not the worst game I've ever played, but all of the issues with it add up to something derivative and lame. Sprinkle in the motion sickness it induced in me, and it's one I will likely never, ever pick up again. If you really want to shoot brown and green dudes from the mid-2000s, just play Modern Warfare. Or if you really need Korea to be involved, play Crysis. So that was Homefront, an unremarkable blip in the history of first-person shooters. What FPS games are your favorites? Let me know in the comments below. Like and subscribe for more, and don't forget to wander over to my Patreon to help me continue to make videos and grow.